Well, I'd be remiss if we didn't kind of start here. We just had Fed Day yesterday.
Yes. Yes.
Um, what'd you think? A rates. What'd you think of the press conference? What did you think of all of that? Now that you've had 12 hours or so to think about it.
Yeah. So, actually, I'm going to guess that most people who watch this channel are interested in interest rates because that's what affects, mortgage rates,
Yep, good
and
guess.
of course,
Very good guess.
and equities. So, the funny thing about the Fed meeting yesterday was that it was not the biggest driver of interest rates. What was the biggest driver is what was called the quarterly refunding announcement. That's when the US Treasury tells the market how much debt they're going to issue and at what tenors. And this is something that, in my experience, has never happened before. So we seem to be moving towards a world where, when it comes to interest rates, Fed is still important, but there's someone else who is at the moment just as important, and that is the US
Interesting.
Treasury. Now, here's how I would think about that. So when we're talking about, let's say the 10-year yield, which as we know has a big influence on mortgage rates, when we're talking about the 10-year yield, anything in the world is always supply and demand, right? Just like we see in real estate, we don't have a lot of supply right now. It's keeping prices high. So it's the exact same principle when it comes to US interest rates. So what's been happening over the past quarter is that in August, when the US, so every quarter, the US Treasury gives an announcement telling everyone where I'm going to issue, so how much debt I'm going to issue and what tenors I'm going to issue at. Now, how much debt they issue, that's beyond their control. That's up to Congress. So Congress
Okay.
decides how much money the government spends and what the tax rates are. And the difference is made up by debt issuance. So the US Treasury doesn't have power over how much that they have to issue, but they do have power over what tenors. Now,
When you're saying
last time,
tenor, an average person would think maybe duration. Is that fair?
yeah. So are they going to issue? So let's say, just for the sake of example, the U.S. government has a deficit of $1,000. Now, how do I finance that? Do I issue 10-year debt? Do I issue 30-year debt? Do I issue
Right.
a 1 month bill? So this is all a financing decision that
Hmm.
that they have to do. So what happened at the last quarterly refunding in August was that the U.S. Treasury surprised everyone, and they said that, I'm going to be issuing more longer dated debt. And
Ah,
the market saw that, and there was like, holy shit, supply of longer dated debt is increasing. Who's going to
right.
buy it? It turns out it was difficult to find a lot of buyers for longer dated debt. And that was the big driver of the rise in 10-year yields and longer dated
Okay.
yields for the past quarter. Um, Now, so that's the supply side. Again, there's always demand, supply and demand.